I will call on the president of NUGS-China to give us the purpose of this evening gathering. So if you are there, Mr. President, please take this seat and then continue for us.
Okay. Thank you so much, Honorable God bless, for the introduction, and very good evening to all of us. Um, Good evening to all of us joining from China, and all the other guests that you have invited from Afrobarometer. A very good day to you from wherever you are. Welcome all of us to this. Excuse me. Welcome all of us to this tonight's training. We are very welcome to this training. We are NUGS-China, and our mandate is very simple. We are here to empower ourselves academically, socially, in terms of warfare and all aspects. And so this meeting, as a collaboration with Afrobarometer, um, it actually represents a shared commitment that we all have to knowledge, because we recognize that in today's world, quality data and credible research are all essential tools that we need for shaping our policies and in driving developments, national developments as Ghanaians and Africans studying abroad. And so, as we've seen in the flyers that we've shared around, I believe you have all taken notes. The theme for the training and henceforth the purpose of this gathering is empowering African students in China with evidence-based research skills. And so, as students and professionals studying in China, we come across, we are studying across various disciplines, and we are all engaged in academic research. And so, whether it is thesis writing, innovational work, public policy discussions, these are what we are involved in. So, realize that we need access to quality and usable data. Uh, these are the data that we need to be able to help us carry out our various researches. Now, um, access to this data as students sometimes becomes a problem. Many of us, those especially in the policy field, sometimes we find it so difficult to lay our hands on quality data that we can use for our research and even our paper publication. And so when we got the chance, or when we happened to be in touch with Afrobarometer, the whole national executive body of NUGS-China was very happy, because they are actually providing, or they are supplying something that is um, very useful, or is in high demand for most of our members as NUGS-China. And so we have gathered here purposely to build our collective capacity as African students and researchers. And the whole idea is to encourage evidence-based discourse, whether it's on governance, democracy, development, and other social issues that is affecting us all as Africans or even as Ghanaians. And so we are here to actually create this new generation of students that are actually informed and research oriented, and therefore capable of contributing meaningfully to Africa's development. And so, in short, we hope that this program will not only end as a mere session that we all joined just because we saw the links on Zoom, but we are actually going to take very good use of it as a very key resource to our academic journey. And so we encourage all of us that in the coming few days, the research, the training is going to come to us in 4 sections. Today being the first, let's all take notes and try our best to engage the facilitators, and let's try to churn out all the knowledge and information that they want to give to us, so that we can make very good use of the whole training, and we'll continue to inspire our future, inspire collaborations, and even all our research networks. And so once again, I warmly welcome all of us, and I wish us all a very successful and an impactful program. Thank you all, and God bless you. Dr. God bless, please take over.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for this very nice presentation on informing us the reason for meeting here. Indeed, I I can tell you for a fact that I myself sitting here, um, data I need to do some part of my research is very hard to come by. Very, very hard to come by. So if you don't have access to it, then it means you have to fall on primary data. Go and gather your own data for your work. That one too is not easy. Usually it's dependent on the type of research you're doing. And so we are very fortunate to have this collaboration with Afrobarometer, which I know moving forward, those of us who will take it very seriously are going to benefit immensely in this collaboration. So at this point, I've shared the registration link in the chat. So those of us who have not already registered, please, I entreat you to click on the form and register. Add your name, fill the form, add your details, and partake in this particular training sessions that are going to happen with some few days. I know that we are going to benefit immensely from it. Mr. President, if you can share, I'll be glad if you can share this thing for me, the QR code for the Afrobarometer platform.
All right, sure, I'll do it right away.
Yeah. If you can do that. I'm using PC, so I'm not getting the code. Let me see. Maybe I can get it. Okay. Okay. I think. Okay, so the QR code is also in the chat. Please, those of us who have not actually joined, I entreat all of us to join right now. Join right now. You can send it to your friends, your colleagues on your chapter platforms everywhere. Just send the code. Send the forms to all of them. Every member, every Ghanaian student here in China should benefit from this particular program. It's going to be a very wonderful one. So I entreat each and every one, send it to your groups and let each and every one join. Okay, so we can see the group QR code on the screen. So those of us who have not joined, please kindly join. If you have already joined, you can send this QR code to your friends, your mates, your group, and let them join. You can invite any country person, any other person from any country, any African country. Yes, please go ahead and invite them. Even if you have friends from other countries, just invite them to join the group. It's a research group. We are going to learn a lot. So try as much as possible to reach out to a lot of the people. And it's very, very important that we also equally fill the forms. I think we'll put the link in the WeChat group so we can all go there. Once you join, you go there and then you fill the form. Okay, thank you very much. Now, without talking plenty, we move on to the next on the agenda. So, what are the objectives? What are the objectives of this particular training session that we want to encounter or that we want to involve ourselves with? So, I'll call on Mr. Kamal Yakubu. I don't know if he's with us. I'm sure he's with us. He or she is with us. Please, please, if you are with us, Kamal Yakubu, please kindly respond for us, for me to know you are
Yes,
available.
yes,
Thank
God
you very
bless. I'm on the call. How are you?
much. Okay, I'm doing well. You can see me, eh?
Yes, I can see you. Yes, yes.
Okay. I also would like to see you.
Yes, let
Yeah,
me put my camera on briefly.
yeah.
Um, yes, so hello
Okay.
everybody.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
I'm Kamal,
Kamal.
coming to you from Mampong, Ekuapem, in Ghana.
Wow. Wow. In
So
the Eastern region.
yes, in the Eastern region. Yes.
That's cool. I'm also from the Eastern region. Okay.
Okay.
So this
Yes.
session is for you. So you pick the stage and then you introduce us to all that this is about.
Yes.
So
So
you have the
will I be able
stage.
to share my screen as well?
I'm sure, Mr. President, can he share? You have to enable that settings, please.
Yes, please. A moment. Let me make you a co-host.
No, I mean, Mr. Kamel.
Yes. I'm making him a
Kamal.
host. I'll also stop
Okay,
my share. Yeah.
okay,
While you're doing that, can you make me a co-host too? Because I'll be presenting after him. Thanks.
yeah.
All right.
Okay, so Mr. Kamal, you have the floor.
Yes. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Let me make this. All right. So I think what I have to say, God bless has touched on it already. I was a Ghanaian student abroad as well, and uh, unfortunately, I had to collect primary data. But when I think, there are different groups of students, those doing the natural sciences, maybe engineering or physics or chemistry or biology, and that's a little bit different. However, even that can be translated to policy at a later stage. But for those doing the social sciences, and the policy relevant work, sometimes, the tool is to conduct a survey and also to study a population. And we most often, it's either like God bless mentioned, primary data or secondary data. And the secondary data, there's a host of them available. Maybe there's a World Values Survey, there's Gallup, there could be the World Bank, the Demographic and Health Survey, and they are all about a different, the World Bank, has various indicators, and the Demographic and Health Survey, has various indicators on health and, anthropometrics. But, Afrobarometer, we also have data, and we felt that it would be good for, especially given the rising prominence of China and, your role as, African students in China. I think it would be relevant for you to at least be aware of Afrobarometer data. So my colleague Dominique will talk to you some more about what Afrobarometer is. But the point of this collaboration is to bridge that gap, equip you with the data literacy. So we won't go into too much detail on data analysis, but we'll show you how to access our data and how to also access our data using our open source online data analysis tool. And primarily, the idea of this engagement, we have a university outreach program that targets universities and students in Africa. However, we met, I think there was a Ghanaian student, who became an Afrobarometer emerging scholar, and he pitched this idea initially to us because he used Afrobarometer data, on, Africa-China relations and managed to, present at our Emerging Scholars Workshop, as well as publish a peer-reviewed publication. So he'll talk to us, towards the end of this training. But, it's really about engaging African students. But for now, Ghanaian students, so I like the fact that also God bless mentioned earlier that, it's not just Ghana students, Ghanaian students just happen to be the first African students group that we've met, so this also, depending on how this goes, and how successful the Ghanaian Students Union is with this collaboration, we are piloting it to scale this kind of partnership, across other African student unions worldwide. So the general objective, to reiterate, is to enhance the data literacy, research capacity and evidence-based analysis among African students in China through structured engagement with Afrobarometer resources, so that at least you can use our data for secondary analysis, or you can also use it for triangulation of your own primary data. So the 5 specific objectives is to really introduce you to our mission, and my colleague will do that soon, and then train you on how to access, interpret, and analyze our survey data online, and encourage you to apply our data in academic research, your thesis, policy briefs and publications, if you've been in Ghana recently, you notice that the um, the the role of Africans in China or Ghanaians in China is very commendable. There's so many Chinese vehicles. There's Chinese I don't know, like, if you're building houses, light switches, Chinese, so it's the impact of African Ghanaians in China is very evident, so I think there could be a lot of policy briefs, coming from this group, and also to encourage, evidence-based discourse on African governance, development, and social issues between Africa and China, and Ghana and China, because we also do have some specific items on, the role of China in Africa. And above all, to keep this going and create a network, a sustainable community of Afrobarometer informed African students, researchers, and advocates worldwide. So I'll stop sharing my screen now and hand over to my colleague. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kamal. Let me sorry, give me a second.
Miss Dominic.
Hi everyone, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Your screen has a lot
I'm
of
seeing your full
windows.
screen, yeah.
Oh, sherbet. Okay, give me a second. How about that? Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. So I am Dominique Driding. Let me see if I can just take off my video, put on my video for a second. Like Kamal, I'm going to do it very temporarily because we just come out of quite a hectic storm here. So my internet connection is a bit dicey at the moment. But yeah, thank you so much for having us. This part of the presentation will just look at the introduction to Afrobarometer. I'm not going to be talking a lot. I thought that one really helpful way to introduce the project and the organization was to share a video that we created, I think it was about 2 years ago now, that brings in not only my voice as somebody who's been in the organization for a while, but you'll be able to hear from a wide variety of voices from within Afrobarometer, talking to the work that we do. So there'll be a few moments at at different stages where I'll open the floor for questions. So if there's anything that comes up when you're seeing some of these videos, please let me know at the appropriate moment. So just in brief, for those of you who haven't heard of Afrobarometer before, we are a Pan-African nonpartisan survey research network. Started off as a project over 25 years ago now, and incorporated as a fully fledged organization, I want to say in the last 3 to 5 years. I don't know the date off the top of my head. But our main goal, as you know, is to give the public a voice in the policymaking process and making people aware, as my colleague Kamal has mentioned, making people like you aware of the data and taking you through ways to use it in a very sort of user-friendly manner is one of our core goals as a team, but also as an organization. So the first, I'm just realizing now that I might not have shared with the audio. So just, are you able to hear that?
No, the
Did
audio
you
is
hear
not
the
coming.
video that just played for a short period of time? Okay, let me just share again with the audio. Give me 1 second. Okay. Before we continue, can you hear now?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Throughout the 20th century, virtually nothing was known about the values, preferences, or insights of African people. Experts, intellectual elites, media pundits, and politicians purported to know what we thought. Even as political openings began to transform the continent in the 1990s, conventional wisdom held that we were focused on economic and social development and didn't care much about democracy or human rights. Against this backdrop, Afrobarometer emerged quietly. Conceived in South Africa and born in Ghana, the brainchild of 3 professors who envisioned a world in which Africa's development as aspirations of its people.
Sometime in 1998, my brethren Bob Martins and I met in South Africa for a conference. We were talking among ourselves and discovered that the 3 of us were conducting opinion surveys. So Mike was conducting opinion surveys in Zimbabwe and Bob in South Africa, and I was doing that in Ghana. We thought, well, it would be a good idea to do this systematically and comparatively, so that we get a sense of things. And this was particularly interesting to us because we were at a conference on African democratization, and we realized that up to that point, we only had assumptions and presumptions about what ordinary Africans thought about the economic and political liberalization reforms that were going on in their countries, especially the democratic reforms.
Afrobarometer started in 1999 mainly as an academic exercise, but the overall vision or purpose of the project was to ensure that the voices of ordinary Africans was not lost in policy discourse. Since then, Afrobarometer has collected, analyzed, and disseminated information about citizen priorities, preferences, and their experiences of governance on the African continent. And we've done this consistently in the past 25 years.
Over the next quarter century, Afrobarometer would write a new African story, giving voice to millions once unheard. Building a pan-African network of researchers, Afrobarometer would become a beacon, guiding governments and policy actors, carrying the experiences, concerns, and hopes of ordinary people to decision makers around the globe. Like most great things, we started small. In 1999, the idea of polling African citizens seemed impossible, even laughable to many observers. Professors Michael Bratton, E. Jima Bwedi, and Robert Mattis were not deterred.
Again, the misperception out there amongst people who had the money to provide assistance for surveys was that Africans won't tell you their opinions, right? So that you need to do more participant observation type of research, anthropological type of research, rather than questionnaire surveys.
When the Afrobarometer was getting started, a lot of people thought that it didn't make sense to do this kind of research in Africa, that Africans wouldn't be interested, that they wouldn't sort of mesh with the methodology.
Well, when we put in, when we applied for funding for our concept of undertaking opinion surveys in African countries, some of the people who reviewed the application for the National Science Foundation and others that we applied for were quite dismissive. They dismissed the application on the ground that everybody knows what Africans are. Secondly, it was impossible given the African
merging independent research projects from Michigan State University, the Institute for Democratic Alternatives in South Africa, and the Ghana Center for Democratic Development. They completed the first survey in 12 countries, from Botswana and South Africa to Ghana and Nigeria in 2001. Their first dataset proved that Africans can be scientifically polled just like people in other regions of the world, and debunked the notion that Africans are indifferent to democratic governance.
And again, I think, our very first round of surveys just stood that on its head and showed you that people are quite, willing to engage and to think about politics in a serious way and express their opinions.
Being able to do 12 countries, clean the data set, get it ready for analysis, was a big vindication. It was a big validation of our concept that Africans could be surveyed, African opinions could be sampled in the same way that is done in other regions of the world.
Well, we discovered a widespread hunger for democratic governance. I mean, like people anywhere, Africans wish to choose their leaders and they wish to live freely, especially under a system that you might describe as democracy.
Building on its initial success, Afrobarometer extended its reach in the early 2000s, entering a growth phase that continues to this day. As researchers from across the continent joined in, we expanded our surveys to 16 countries in round 2 and 18 countries in round 3 in 2005 and 2006. Having 3 data points from round 1 to 3 allowed us to start doing trend analysis, an important milestone for tracking the evolution of African views over time. Determined to nurture the next generation of African researchers, we also launched our first summer school in 2004, as capacity building became a key pillar of our mission. Offering reliable scientific data and analyses, Afrobarometer began entering the spotlight across the continent and beyond. Whether in a prominent story in The Economist, a Best Dataset Award from the American Political Science Association, or the publication of our first book, Public Opinion, Democracy, and Market Reform in Africa.
Afrobarometer has always wanted to do trend analysis to understand trends in public opinion and to help shape policy. It was important to look not just at a single point in time, but to really understand attitudes and perspectives and how they were evolving over time, especially as countries introduced more democratic processes and people became more familiar with those processes over time. One of the key points on that is that you can't do trend analysis until you have 3 data points. We're always very careful about not taking 2 points as a trend, because events and things that occur on the ground can cause attitudes to change in the short term, going up or down in the short term. Since round 3, which was in 2005 to 2006, we've been able to do trend analysis in a growing number of countries over time. And now we have countries that we can look at for 10 or even 20 years, 25 years for some countries.
The threshold of Afrobarometer data being usable, being amenable to cross-time analysis, trend analysis. And the way we knew, we realized we have arrived was that The Economist magazine decided to feature the Afrobarometer findings in its May or June edition of the magazine. It was basically an acknowledgement that there is now a data set, empirical data set, that can be analyzed and analyzed to get a sense of African opinions on things around them, things about their lives, things about economic reforms and the political reforms that were taking place around them. So that was a major milestone.
The next steps would be a quantum leap in survey coverage and an ambitious journey toward Africanization and sustainability. In 2008, co-founder and executive director Bratton passed the leadership torch to Jima Buedi, who oversaw a 20-country round 4 survey carrying on Afrobarometer's zero tolerance for error standards. Partners took responsibility for oversight and support to national partners in all surveyed countries. The Institute for Development Studies at the University of Nairobi for East Africa, the Institute for Justice and Reconciliation for Southern Africa, and the Ghana Center for Democratic Development for West and North Africa. Showcasing the capabilities of African leadership and African partners, we reached another milestone with a daring leap from 20 countries to 35 countries in round 5 in 2011 to 2013, followed by 36 countries in round 6 about 2 years later. This phase also introduced a rolling year-round release of our findings and analysis, enhancing our relevance, visibility, and prestige as a key resource for African research and policy making. These expansions weren't just about increasing numbers, they were about building the narrative of a continent. They confirmed that as a Pan-African network, we possess the requisite talent, creativity, and drive to aim high and to succeed. As we continued to welcome new countries into our fold in round 6, we pursued growth on other fronts as well. A new website made our findings more accessible to all, enriched with media content. Our Pan-Africa profiles captured the essence of the continent's diverse voices. Our field teams embraced the digital age, trading paper for electronic tablets.
Technology has come to enhance Afrobarometer's work significantly. When we started in 1999, what we call the first round or round 1, we started off with pen and paper. But in round 7, we moved from paper and pen to computer-aided data capture. At that point, the introduction of technology allowed us to improve in many ways. First of all, the speed of data collection, the extent to which we had quality control measures in place, as well as the cleaning processes were all fast-tracked once we introduced technology. And so Afrobarometer's data collection, cleaning, and analysis, and the overall turnaround time of getting data to a good standard has been improved significantly since we introduced technology into the process of data collection. And of course, our cleaning protocols as well as quality control efforts have been enhanced with the use of technology in our data collection and in the entire value chain of Afrobarometer production.
All of our operations are managed centrally. We do programming of the questionnaire centrally, but it is in a uniform way that everyone is able to conduct the same questionnaire in each country without having a physical copy of the questionnaire.
I think we can look forward to Afrobarometer continuing to innovate on the types of products that we are sharing with the world. For example, one of the products that I'm currently working on personally is creating a new package of publications called Methods Notes that will help us to explore different methodological issues and help us to take the project to the next level.
By early 2016, we found ourselves sought after by the policy community, earning accolades and gearing up confidently for our round 7 survey spanning 34 countries. The new management team soon faced an enormous challenge: the COVID-19 pandemic. In March 2020, we had to suspend all fieldwork activities, halting our progress halfway through round 8. We used the pause to refine our work procedures and explore the use of telephone surveys, adapting our methodology to conduct our first ever phone survey in September 2020, a pilot study in Namibia on the COVID-19 pandemic.
We have always prided ourselves in doing face-to-face surveys, but with the pandemic, we have now commenced with telephone surveys. And over the past 2 years, we have piloted various formats that we could do that.
Despite pandemic-related adjustments, data analysis, results dissemination, and other activities never missed a beat. Recognized as an innovator by the United Nations Volunteers or UNV Innovation Challenge Fund, Afrobarometer modeled the economic and social contributions of volunteers to the Sustainable Development Goals or SDGs. In May 2021, we launched our SDG Scorecard series, contributing the perspectives of African citizens to the tracking of progress towards the goals and underscoring our commitment development priorities and fostering citizen engagement in policy discussions. In January 2021, of 2 or more think tanks in the Global Go-To Think Tank Index, hosted the first Barometer's Brown Bag webinar on telephone survey methods in collaboration with the Arab Barometer and the Latin American Public Opinion Project. We continued to develop outlets for sharing our findings and informing public discourse and policy debates, ranging from the Washington Post Monkey Cage blog to high-level forums in Africa, Europe, and the United States, and a weekly data series in the continent, an award-winning online news publication. After a 7-month hiatus due to COVID-19, we successfully completed round 8 data collection in 34 countries, including our first survey in Angola, and by August 2021, we were ready for a record round 9 in 39 countries, and by January 2024 for a new record round 10.
Now we are at almost 40 countries covering most of the African continent. Over the years, we've basically expanded to include as many countries on the continent so that our data can represent fully the views of most Africans, because we are now covering about 80% of the population of the African continent. Of course, would love to include all the 54 countries on the continent, but that's something we are gradually building up to.
We also continue to expand our capacity building program, which over the years has trained hundreds of young researchers, civil society activists, journalists, parliamentarians, and members of the African Governance Platform through our French and English language summer schools, thematic workshops, mentorships, university outreach initiatives, and staff development fellowships. We lead the Data for Governance Alliance, a 4-year project to foster data-driven advocacy and collaboration between Pan-African civil society organizations and members of the African Governance Platform. With our partners, we are bolstering implementation of the African Union Agenda 2063 and the African Governance Architectures Agenda on democracy, governance, and human rights by equipping civil society with tools and knowledge to engage effectively with African governance architecture and national governments.
The data that we produce are made available free of charge to researchers, policymakers, civil society advocates, international development partners on the African continent and beyond.
Today, Afrobarometer stands as the premier non-partisan Pan-African research organization committed to tracking the experiences, evaluations, and perspectives of ordinary Africans on political, economic, and social developments. Headquartered in Accra, Ghana, our network comprises 37 national partners, including universities, research organizations, and NGOs. Our 3 core partners and technical support units at the University of Cape Town, Michigan State University, and the University of Malawi. To achieve our vision of a world in which Africa's development is rooted in the realities and aspirations of its people, we work to elevate citizen voices as a crucial component of policy and decision-making across Africa. Our core objectives include producing scientifically reliable data and analysis on public opinion, strengthening the capacity of African institutions for democratic governance research, and disseminating and applying democratic governance survey results.
The data that Afrobarometer produces, including the analytic insights that we generate, are all available to the public for free. We do this to ensure that the information that we generate and the insights that we create from the data is available to everybody who wants to access and use it to inform decision making. And this has been the biggest contribution of Afrobarometer to the policy space on the continent and beyond. And different policy actors at government level, civil society groups, research think tanks, both on the continent and outside of the continent, have consistently used the data as well as the evidence that they generate to inform decision making in their own spaces. For Afrobarometer, we envision a world in which Africa's development is anchored in the aspirations and perspectives of ordinary citizens. That development on the continent is driven by what people's preferences are. And we will continue to do this for the next 25 years as we've done in the past 25 years.
Over the past quarter century, we have conducted more than 385,000 face-to-face interviews in 42 countries across all regions of Africa. Using a rigorous methodology described as the gold standard for surveys in Africa, our surveys now represent the voices of more than 3/4 of the African population.
So over the years, really, Afrobarometer methodology has become really the gold standard in terms of how to do the surveys on the African continent. But as also a network, we are also constantly learning and refining our methodology.
We also want to be innovative so that we optimize our resources in the long run.
I think we need a lot more Afrobarometers as journalists. I mean, the quality of work, the authenticity of the work, and the scope of the work means that as a journalist, I'm exposed to different experiences from different places. Now, this allows me to incorporate those experiences into my own situation as a Ghanaian and as a reporter. This gives me angles that sometimes under normal circumstances I would not think of. This gives me perspective that under normal circumstances I would not think of.
We disseminate our survey findings through a wide variety of channels, including briefings, publications, infographics, blog posts, and social media, resulting in thousands of news reports a year. The Ibrahim Index of African Governance, the United Nations Development Programme, the World Bank, the Economist Intelligence Unit, and others use Afrobarometer data to produce regional and global governance indicators. Government agencies, civil society organizations, media outlets, and academics across Africa and around the world rely on our data.
So I've had a pretty long experience with Afrobarometer. I started off using the data as a master's student at the University of Cape Town, and then I transitioned to assistant project manager for Southern Africa. AB's biggest achievement over the last 25 years is really getting African citizens to understand and value public opinion data. It has gone throughout the continent in more and more countries, creating Afrobarometer ambassadors wherever it goes, whether they're in universities or CSOs or even within government departments, so that it's really bringing this data to the people.
Surveys play a very central role in influencing government policy. We don't have any other body or agency or network that provides panel data each and every other 2 years. So this has really made Afrobarometer the pathway that for Africa engagement.
Les enquêtes Afrobaromètre jouent un très grand rôle. Tout dernièrement, j'étais un peu surpris de voir beaucoup de citations des données Afrobaromètre dans les données du ministère de l'administration territoriale. Et au ministère de l'économie et des finances, les résultats sont vraiment, il faut le dire, utilisés. J'ai participé tout récemment aussi à une activité de ce ministère-là où, pour les aspirations des populations, on a utilisé les résultats Afrobaromètre directement. Au lieu de faire nous-mêmes une autre enquête de perception des aspirations et des doléances des populations.
Our proudest achievement is legitimizing public opinion as a pillar of African democracy. And as our journey continues to unfold, we will ensure that African voices continue to shape a brighter, more inclusive future for the continent.
Thank you so much for your attention. yeah, sorry that I couldn't play the entire video. We will share the link to it. I'll share it in the chat once I'm finished. But yeah, I just thought it was a good way to sort of touch on the history, how our data is used, some of the innovations that we've experimented with, our networks across the continent, as well as sort of the motivation behind the entire project. So yeah, and doing that in a reasonable amount of time. But I also wanted to show you this updated map, because that's one thing that we didn't see in the video, of all the countries that we are, that was as of the end of round 10 that are included in our network, with the dark green being the latest additions to our survey network. As you can see in the center of the map, Central Africa, Libya, and a few countries along the Horn of Africa, they're in gray. And unfortunately, those countries haven't been surveyed yet. There are three main criteria, and I won't go into too much detail, but that determine whether we are able to conduct a survey for the first time or able to go back into a country in subsequent rounds. And that is the political climate. Is it safe for our respondents? Is to share their opinion freely without fear of intimidation or their lives? Is it safe for our field workers to navigate the country without being intimidated or
Voilà, Teta, merci. Nous sommes là connecté ordinateur là quoi. Donc, il y a essayé de là, il y a téléchargé quand on sera là. Après, on a téléphone tenu.
I don't know. Okay, I guess. Can you hear me?
Yes, please continue.
We can hear you.
Okay. And the second criteria is whether we can get access to a nationally representative sample. Is there, has there been a census, a reliable census that's been conducted in the country within the last 10 years? And the final criteria is whether there is a national partner, a local partner, who is able to take up the work of doing a nationally representative survey in that particular country. So unless all those three things are present at the same time, we are, in most cases, unable to either go into a country for the first time to conduct a survey or to continue. Because another thing that I should mention is that not every single country that has been surveyed at one point has been surveyed every single round for the reasons that I've mentioned. So for instance, Burundi, we surveyed Burundi in round 5 and round 6, if I'm not mistaken. But due to the political climate, we haven't been able to return since. So you can find out more information about that on our website. Yeah, and I'm happy to field any questions you may have a little bit later. The other thing that I wanted to just touch on in a little bit more detail is the Afrobarometer Global Barometers Network, the Global Barometers Network, and the role Afrobarometer plays in that network. It is quite an informal collective of people who are doing public opinion survey research in other various regions on the continent. And it is predominantly an information and sort of lessons learned sharing space. When in the video that you just saw, there was a mention of the telephone surveys that we have piloted. And a lot of the learning in preparation for piloting those came from conversations with the broader Global Barometers Network. So each of the projects sort of operate independently. They have their own sort of questionnaire finalization. We have no influence over what each other asks or how the data is shared and interpreted, but it is a really great network to learn from one another because we are doing such similar work. The other thing that I wanted to touch on briefly in sort of preparation for the rest of this couple of sessions that we have together, and my colleagues will go into more detail as the days together continue. But our survey questionnaire, which I also highly encourage you to look at, get a sense of the types of questions that we ask. And again, that is also available on the website. My colleague will show you how to access those in one of the later conversations. But basically, our questionnaire covers some core topics, it covers some special modules, and it also covers country-specific questions. So core topics, more often than not, are tracked over time. And for many of those topics, you're able to get data from round one, or some of the very, very early rounds to compare to. And then we have special modules that are included in our questionnaire at very specific points in time. Perhaps there's a sort of issue of interest, there is something that is affecting the entire continent that we need to incorporate. And one example of that is COVID-19. It's not always sort of something catastrophic. It could be something that just slightly deviates from what the core topics that we capture, but we're wanting to get some idea of the pulse of that particular continent, of that particular topic, sorry, on the continent. And then the final section of our questionnaire are the country-specific questions, which are relevant to a particular country at a particular time. So even though we might not necessarily be able to compare country-specific questions from Ghana to Namibia, because what's relevant in Ghana is very different to what's relevant in Namibia, presumably, but and we also are not able to compare many of these questions over time because it's about what is relevant at a particular moment in time. These questions still provide really helpful insight into national level priorities, which aren't as easily captured in other modules. You know, that's what is specifically going on in that country at that particular time that may not be relevant anywhere else. So that is something that you will come across when you are going through our questionnaires. As I mentioned, those are some of the core topics. Our round 10 was our most recently completed survey round, and our the special modules that are included in our round 10 survey, and those are the you'll be able to get access to all of our round 10 data through the website as well. The special modules include migration, trade and open borders, access to justice, poverty and cost of living, youth, economic engagements, sexual and reproductive health rights, and globalism. And of course, there are some questions that, you know, might have been touched on in our core topics that are relevant to the special topics, but when it's a special topic in and of itself, there's sort of more meat on the bones. It explores the area in a little bit more depth than maybe was previously possible without it being a standalone topic. Our special modules for round 11, which is our survey round, which is launching this month. I'm not sure if they've started training in Zimbabwe, but it's very much launching this month, or has launched this month. But that includes international relations, democratic resilience, populism, taxation, inclusion, climate change, and gender. This is another topic that my colleagues will get into in a lot more detail at a later point, but just to say a brief word about our survey methodology, we use a nationally representative sample of adult citizens in every country that we conduct surveys in. All of our interviews are done face-to-face unless it is for our telephone, survey stream, which is not data that was collected through our telephone surveys is not combined with our sort of core face-to-face data that we release. We use a standard questionnaire, again, excluding those country-specific questions, as I explained, and the sample size we use a sample size of between 1,200 and 2,400 in every country, of adult citizens in every country that we conduct the survey in. One video that I always find helpful to play is this video which sort of paints a really accurate, I feel, picture of what fieldwork is like. I'm not sure how many of you have gone into the field, who are planning to go into the field, but this is a really accurate snapshot of what fieldwork can look like and does look like for many of our teams. And sometimes it gets way harder than this, and sometimes it is a little bit easier too. But yeah, I'll say a little bit more about it once after the video is played.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
Everything I do so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move so descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patented being negative when you should be getting after it. I got facts over tracks, this and that. Spitting slow, spitting fast. I could roast, I could gas. Think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past. And the pettiness, a reflection of the emptiness. Hilarious, you think you're worth my time, you're delirious. Mysterious, because you hide behind a fake exterior. Inferior, you know I'll always be a bit superior. Get off of me, this ain't no humble brag. I want you to hear words, you can say them back. I want you
So what I wanted the video to demonstrate is that when we say that our survey is nationally representative and we go to, traverse the entire country to get the opinions of the normal, average, everyday person. This is really what I mean. And as I said, there are some circumstances that are a lot harder than this. One story that I love to tell, which really demonstrates this, is that in Madagascar a couple of rounds ago, there was a team that needed to walk 2 days to get to the enumeration area where they were actually conducting their interviews, because there was absolutely no infrastructure, road infrastructure, to get that to that particular village. And yeah, so we really do take our work and what we say quite seriously. Yeah. With that, are there any questions?
Prof, thank you very much, Dominic. Prof, take over.
Who's Prof?
Bruce, please, are you around? Okay. Please say something.
Okay, while we're waiting for Bruce, and any other questions that might wait, I'm seeing a question in the chat.
Yeah,
No,
let me check.
that's from earlier. I'll continue. The other thing that I wanted to share with you, it was touched on a little bit in the first video that one of the first videos that I played, and that is around the impact, because that's one of the questions that we get quite frequently is, how do we know that we are doing what we say we're doing, and we are, making any dent in actually giving the public a voice in policy making. And this is an example of how we've done that, because it is, I always say that it can be quite difficult to measure impact of something like Afrobarometer. But, we do our best. Okay, I think that is all from me. I
Thank you
am
very much.
open to any questions if there are any questions.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, Bruce, please take over.
All right. Can I be heard?
Yeah, we
go
can
ahead.
hear
Yes,
you.
yes, we can hear you.
All right. All right. Thank you so much for such a wonderful presentation. So now it's question and answer time. So if you have any question, you can raise your hand or you can just put it in the chat box and then we'll try and address them. Any question? I think I'll set the ball rolling. I think this one will go to Dominic. So you've given us the background, the history, and then the way forward for Afrobarometer. And part of what you said focuses on training, but then are there opportunities like internships or let's say the near future where people can also join Afrobarometer from this call? So are there internship opportunities or employment opportunities where people can eventually join the team Afrobarometer?
Thanks. I don't know, Bruce or Fred. I don't know if you identify as Bruce or Frederick, but thanks for your question. Yes, and also it's in flux. At the moment, we are thinking about how to restructure our internship program. And at the moment, we're working with, we do have quite a few RAs that are based in some of the institutions that we work directly with. And we're still thinking through how we can be more inclusive of people who may fall outside of those direct partnerships. But we have not yet concluded that process. So I would say that please follow us on social media. Please sign up for our newsletter because those are the ways that you can keep up to date with all of the opportunities that are available. Sometimes, I hear about a vacancy on LinkedIn like everybody else before. So yeah, we have, I think for especially for units that are not our own, yeah, we have a little bit less insight into what may be available. So yeah, use those resources and platforms to keep up to date about what is possible. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any other questions from the audience?
Prof, please, I would like to ask a question if.
All right, sure, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. Ms. Dominic, thank you for such a wonderful presentation. In your presentation, I mean, have you looked at the core areas that you mostly focused on? Do you have any plans, I mean, going forward, where you're going to have data about the digital structure in Africa? Because currently, we can all realize that Africa is quite doing well when it comes to digital governance system. But when I went to your page, I mean, on the data parts, in the areas, I didn't see where we can have data pertaining to the African governance system in terms of digitalization and then digital systems. Are there any plans in place going forward? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your question. I didn't really get into our questionnaire development process much. So yeah, thank you for asking this question. For round 11, so a survey round lasts about 1.5 to 2 years. So we launched, as I said, in May. The aim is to finish by the end of next year. And our questionnaire is because it's obviously the same across countries, it's already been finalized. And it takes about a year to get that questionnaire from conception stage into an actual, final questionnaire. So for our next, the round that is currently going into the field, no, there isn't a plan to include digital infrastructure, digital governance, as a standalone or as a substantive module on its own. But there is interest. I mean, Kamal and I had a conversation with a colleague from another institution that we collaborate with frequently, and he also shared the interest in having more data on digital governance. So yeah, the possibility is there, but the actual process of whittling down all the topics that we, all the suggestions that we get from all of our stakeholders, it's an incredibly competitive process to actually get a topic into our questionnaire because space is so limited. But it's definitely something that's been sort of floating around, and I would highly encourage you to either email myself or Kamal or Sohaila, who you'll see more of in some of our subsequent sessions, because just to get that idea in writing so that we can forward it to the powers that be. The other thing that I should say is that we're also in the process of we actually proposed that we have a more sort of transparent topic suggestion process that is more clearly available on the website. So that is in the making. Keep an eye on it, because that's also will be a good way for you to get that sort of research intention, research interest documented, so that it can be considered for future questionnaires. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So I'd like to add, Bruce, that we do have some items that, by items I mean questions in the questionnaire that have been fielded in previous rounds that ask about, they might not ask your exact question on, the digitalization policy and infrastructure in Africa, but they kind of also tackle it. So if you go on, we will take you through our website and our online data analysis tool tomorrow. So, I think during our third session, so we'll also, so I think maybe that's a session you should join, because we'll show you how to, find, the publication on digital safety in Africa. I think we have a special survey, and the special survey, this one is not publicly available, but we have a special survey actually with publication output on digital safety in Africa. So that's something to search for. And we also have an article, a couple of publications on digitalization in Africa. So that's some publications that you can look out for.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much for the answer. Are there any more questions from the audience? Kindly raise up your hand, or you can just drop them in the chat box. Questions, comments, suggestions, they are all welcome. I think moving forward we'll be going through a lot of trainings, and I think part of the audience would have certain expectations they will be also looking out for. So I think this would be a platform, a very good platform, if you have certain expectations, right? So that the team can also prepare in advance. So you can open your mics, you can also chat them in the chat box, some of your expectations as we go through the program, the training program.
Okay, I think the platform is very quiet, but before we dive in, let me ask this question. Do we need a specialized tool in order to take part in this training? I don't know, it goes to either Dominic or Kamal. Do we need a special tool that probably those of us who would love to join have to probably get installed on our computers before we can join and then follow through?
No, you absolutely do not. We're going to take you through one of our sessions. I don't remember the program for all 4 sessions, but one of them we are going to be going through our online data analysis tool. It's another free resource that's available on our website, and I'll share the link in the chat later on. But absolutely, you can join as you are, just as long as you have a stable internet connection, and yeah, that's all you need. Of course, there are certain limitations to the depth of analysis that you can do on the ODA platform, but it's really a great starting point, especially for people who may not have engaged with Afrobarometer data or public opinion data in general before.
Okay. Okay.
But I don't want to sort of force questions out of people. I'm happy to conclude it here. And if anything comes up, we can always address it at one of our later sessions.
Yeah, you can go ahead like that and conclude.
Great. That's the end. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for the as my prof said, a very nice presentation, nice video. I could relate with a lot of the people in the video. Let me ask this, Dominic, what is your portfolio in Afrobarometer? Probably.
Sure, I didn't even introduce myself properly.
Yes,
Thank you for that. I am the capacity building manager for the basics track. So our capacity building program is divided into 2 streams, but we work across, we work very collaboratively as a team. But my role is essentially to train people, to make the data accessible to people in the sort of policy making space and people who might not need the skills or the tools to utilize the data in an academic context. So I focus mainly on basic analysis training, and yeah, I started my journey with Afrobarometer as the system project manager for Southern Africa, so managed fieldwork in Southern Africa for a very long time, and before moving into the capacity building team. But yeah, now I'm here.
Yeah.
Kamal, my other colleague, who I don't know if you mentioned this, Kamal, but Kamal's responsible for the advanced track, which engages.
Why don't you allow him to speak for himself? Yeah. Come on, you are
Sure,
you are here.
ahead.
Come on.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
She doesn't have to speak for you.
Okay. Yes. Thank you, Dominique. I'm the capacity building manager for Advanced Track. So I'm Dominique, but for the more academic route. So to encourage people to use Afrobarometer data for more advanced analysis. in the academic space as well as in the policy making space. Thank you.
Okay, a quick question. If you say you are for the advanced track, I heard Dominic saying that is it a beginner track? So what's the
The
difference?
basics.
The basics.
So
Yeah.
yes, so basically, when you look at public opinion research, there's there's descriptive analysis, where a journalist might look at maybe the use of mobile phones in Africa, right? And then they will report that, oh, maybe 30% of Ghanaians are using mobile phones as compared to 60% of Chadians. Um, and so that's just descriptive analysis, and it's very useful for policy. However, you can also do inferential analysis with the data that we have. That's doing maybe descriptive analysis as well as doing running a regression, or creating doing a factor analysis to create a latent construct. For example, some of the we'll go into this later on, but some of the questions on maybe we have a live poverty index, and the live poverty index, though it's a subjective measure of poverty, made from a combination of different questions. And in order to maybe use a live poverty index for analysis, somebody would have to be familiar with factor analysis. So that's the difference between the basic and the advanced, but really they are equally variable. Advanced is just a different approach to using Afrobarometer data, and then the basic is also a different approach to using Afrobarometer data. However, they all at the end of the day merge together, because even if you're doing advanced analysis, you'd have to do some of the basic analysis to get to your inferential analysis. So I hope that makes the rule clear. And these are also different uses, because the people that if you are head of an NGO and you are interested in using data for decision making, you are mainly perhaps interested in using you do a lot of advocacy work, so you're interested in maybe the descriptive analysis to make a point, an advocacy point. However, if you are in maybe the central bank in Ghana and you are trying to look at maybe Ghanaians' attitudes towards the e-levy, you might want to, and that's a question in our data set for round 9, I think. You might want to do inferential analysis, and that's where I come in. I hope that's clear.
Very clear. Very, very clear. And NUGS-China, you are very, very, very happy, lucky. Let me include myself. We are very, very lucky, because I just ended program, taught a lot of people a lot of the tools that they can use, data analysis, talking about factor analysis, using R to do some regression and some machine learning tools, Python and stuff. So with this data coming on board, I can see that NUGS-China members stand a big chance to, be on top in wrangling in the data set and then coming up with very interesting, decisions and then stuff for us to better our country going forward. Yeah, thank you very much. For the last time, please, if anybody has got a question, I'm giving just some 1 minute. If you have a question that you want to ask any of them, if you have a question you want to ask.
God bless. Please, we have another colleague on the call who's also going to be part of the training. So Suhaila, maybe she can also introduce herself.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that,
yeah, yeah. Please. Yeah, please.
the participants are
Sohila,
aware.
kindly go ahead. Just let us see your face and introduce yourself for us.
Thank you, Kamal. Thank you. God bless. Hello, everyone. I'm Suhaila, and I'm based in Mauritius. I'm the Afrobarometer capacity building trainer. So basically, my role involves planning and delivering workshops for the basic tracks in both Anglophone and Francophone countries. And I look forward for this journey over the coming few weeks with you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I look forward to meeting the rest of the days, meeting all of you. I hope that we are going to have a wonderful time together. And some of us who are very, very interested in learning, We try as much as possible to make ourselves available during all the days and participate in these very important tutorial sections that are coming. And I encourage each and everyone to also do so, because this will enhance our research. You know, as we are here, is basically research. And these tutorial ones, we take it seriously. I bet us we are going to be on top. And CCFA is going to be our #1 gender last stop. Yeah. So thank you very much. If there are no questions, then I will call on, I think I have Miss Jane to give us some vote of thanks. You know, though we have to thank the people who just introduced us to this Afrobarometer. So if Jane, you are around, kindly give us some vote of thanks. Okay, so Jane is missing. Okay, so if Jane is missing, no, Jane, you are there. Jane, Secretary, please kindly give us the vote of thanks. Okay, so Jane, definitely it means Jane is missing. Okay, I need a lady to do this, Anna, for me. So any lady to do it for me, please. I don't want to mention names. Just volunteer. Okay. Dr. Gertrude, please do us the honor, do the vote of thanks, and give us the closing prayer so that we call it a day.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. God bless. So I'll use this opportunity to thank our speakers for their time and the insightful presentation that they have given us. We are really grateful, and we look forward to more and more ideas for the second and then the third day. I also want to appreciate each and everyone that has made that has participated in today's program, and we look forward to seeing you all tomorrow as well. And not forgetting our president, I think he's also here, NEC president and other NEC executive members that are also present. So let's close our eyes and for a short prayer, and then we take our leave. Father Lord, for a successful one at that. We thank you for the life of each and every one of us, including our presenters. We commit tomorrow's program into your hands, that as we proceed, we commit the following programs into your hands, that it will be successful just as today's own. In the name of the Lord Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, each and everyone. We call it an evening. I'll say have a good evening. Those of us here in China, you say have a good evening. Those outside China, I'm sure probably to be in the afternoon. So I'll say have a good afternoon. See you tomorrow, same time.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Mr. J.
Mr. Kamal.
Yeah.
You